Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of ChimpChat. Today, we are joined by Lee Burke of Burke, Bogart, and Brownell, an insurance agency in Boca. They do personal lines, they do commercial lines, and they do risk management. Lee, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about the thing that everybody wants to talk about, which is COVID-19, because that's the 24/7 thing that we've been dealing with right now. So what are you seeing with your businesses and your clients with regard to COVID-19 and what change that you're doing and what are you dealing with on a day-to-day?
Well, the first thing we're doing is trying to simply stay in touch with our clients. Doing it two ways. Number one is disseminating a lot of information to them that we think will be helpful. It is, some of it's insurance related, some of it's potential claim related. Certainly initially, a lot of it was as we first got information on the various governmental loan and financial programs, we were getting that out to clients. We've been getting, again, a lot of insurance and claim related, legal related information out to them electronically. So just providing good information, providing them resources and letting them know to call us if they had any questions or we can be any help. The other thing we're doing is picking up the phone and calling people and just staying in touch. It is just the reaching out and making the human connection on how are you doing, what's going on, is there anything we can do for you, do you need anything? And the response is fantastic. People are just, they appreciate somebody just being in touch saying, hey, we care, how are you?
Right. I agree. I think people feel very isolated right now. And so that personal reaction and that reaching out to them on the phone as opposed to a text or an email or whatever really goes a long way. So it's fantastic advice. You talked about some of the legal issues. I know right now the big thing on a lot of people's minds, a lot of business owners' minds, is business interruption insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that most of them at this point, or almost all of them, are being denied. What are you seeing on your end? What can a business owner do, if anything, on that front?
Well, you're right. The number one question from business owners is on business interruption. Probably about a third of the businesses have it, about 2/3 don't. The people that have it certainly want to know, will the carrier respond? Will the claim be paid? And if not, why? The first thing we try to do is explain that as an agent, we don't have any legal authority to make a claim determination. I wish I did. I wish I had a checkbook where I could write the check, but we don't. We can advise, we can inform people, we can be their advocate, all of which we try to do. But ultimately, the insurance company has to make a coverage decision. And then, of course, that coverage decision can be challenged legally. So one of the things we say to people is, at the end of the day, we can always file a claim. There's nothing wrong with filing a business interruption claim for a COVID situation. And we filed probably 6, 7, 8 claims already. We have been explaining to people that, in most cases, we don't think, certainly the policy intent is not there for coverage for a COVID situation. There are 2 triggers that in most policies need to be met. One is dealing with physical damage to the premises. The other is a virus or pollution or contamination type of exclusion, which is in a lot of policies. So there are a couple of coverage hurdles, if you want, in a policy that you have to overcome to get protection. So we review those with the client, explain it. Again, we've sent a lot of articles out. In the last week, we've seen a number of very good articles from some of the large South Florida law firms, which again, we've disseminated. And we've also told people about where suits are being filed and what's going on to try to just keep them informed, because one of our jobs is just information, it's education.
Right.
So that's pretty much been, that's been the primary focus. The other primary issue has been working with clients, reaching out on how we can reduce their insurance costs. Are their payrolls going to be down? Are their sales going to be down? Have they mothballed any vehicles? Have they parked vehicles? What can we do to make changes to your current program to help save you money in this time where most businesses, frankly, are going to see a significant or tremendous reduction in income?
Sure. So getting back to the business interruption insurance, I can imagine that as a business owner, I personally do not have business interruption insurance. So I have no dog in this fight per se, but I would imagine that this feels like exactly why I would want to buy business interruption insurance. It feels like, well, my business is interrupted through no fault of my own. So the gut feeling in the conversations that I've had with clients and friends and business owners that I talk to is, this is kind of why I have it. The fact that it's not being, that claims are being denied, they're saying no is really frustrating. What is your take on, are people then less inclined to get business interruption insurance in the future when they finally have a situation where this is why I bought it and it didn't work? Are people feeling that, or is anybody expressing that to you, or is that not really happening much?
We've seen almost, I don't think I could count on one hand the number of times when we've had inquiries or conversations with people that are really future looking. I think that's one of the frustrating things, probably the most frustrating thing about this whole COVID episode to me, is that people are so focused on what's happening right now, what's right in front of them, the immediate loss of income, the possible closing of their business, the personal fear of safety and family security, that they're not looking forward for the most part, including business owners, which is unusual because business owners tend to be very forward looking. They're not thinking ahead. Now, if you ask me to look into my crystal ball, I think what we probably will see at some point down the road, and I don't think it'll be too long, I think we will probably see some form of national governmental business income insurance program for something like epidemics, pandemics, illnesses, similar to what we have for flood insurance, similar to what we have for terrorism, because this is not a risk issue that the insurance industry economically can handle. It just doesn't work out that way, because we're talking about something that can literally shut the entire country down. There's not enough capital to pay those claims. You've got to have the ink and the paper and the printing press to be able to do it. So I think we will probably end up with a governmental option, and then people will be able to choose whether they want coverage or not. In terms of just dealing with not buying it from an insurance standpoint, there's certainly going to be an element of the public that's going to say the insurance industry screwed us. There are a fair amount of people that don't trust the insurance industry, and I understand that. And I've been in the business 47 years. There are days that I don't like and don't trust them. There are lots of times I've got to take them to the woodshed.
Careful now, this is being recorded, so
It's okay. Trust me. There are an awful lot of insurance executives when the phone rings and they know I'm on the other line. It's basically oh God, we have to talk to him again. What's he going to do to bust our chops today? Fortunately, they pick up the call and answer the call because they know the call is not going to be unreasonable. It just may be something difficult for them, and I have the respect in the industry that they'll take the call. But they have to get taken to the woodshed once in a while.
So I think it's interesting your take as far as a national sort of insurance option, like you said, because realistically, if a third of the businesses out there have business interruption insurance, they just don't have the economic wherewithal to pay everybody. And yet, this is why we have this kind of insurance. So I think that's kind of the middle ground that will make some sense in the future that no one ever predicted. I mean, we can predict the idea that hurricanes can happen. We can't necessarily predict, and hurricanes are isolated in one or a few different geographic areas, not nationwide. This was a nationwide situation that, I don't care how large the insurance company is, they just don't have the dollars to write the check. So I think that's kind of an interesting take on it. So in addition to reaching out to your clients and kind of touching base, let's pivot a little bit and talk about the change that you've made in your business, and how you've adapted to working remotely and having your staff work remotely in your industry.
Well, I think I've got to give all the credit there to the staff. Early on, we talked about working remotely for this COVID episode. And we're set up to work remotely. I mean, we have to be from a hurricane standpoint here in South Florida. So we virtually have the capabilities for almost everybody in the agency to work remotely. And come hurricane time, that happens a fair amount. But we had early conversations on doing it primarily from a safety and psychological comfort level of employees. And I was slow to come to the table on that, primarily from an efficiency standpoint, from a convenience standpoint, and just preferring to have people in the office. Well, I may be a benevolent dictator, but we don't run a true dictatorship. It didn't take long for the staff to basically tell me what we were doing. And we have been working remotely for a couple of weeks. There are 2 or 3 of us, depending on the day of the week, that come into the office out of choice. And we're here. Everybody else is working remotely from home. And that's been working fine. They're comfortable. They're enjoying it. They're productive. Clients are being served. So it's working fine. Again, not my choice, but it's what we need to do in these times.
So then the $100,000 question is do you anticipate allowing employees to work remotely in the future once obviously this has been passed? Because a lot of businesses have started to say, hey, we're seeing productivity at the same levels of what we had before, and we can reduce our overhead by having, less physical office space.
Oh, that's a good question. We actually have a couple of employees who have been working remotely for a while. Our operations manager, who handles all of the administration, the HR, all of the basically the nitty-gritty of running the office from an admin standpoint, works remotely from her home in Greenville, South Carolina. She wanted to move up there for family reasons a couple of years ago. And we wanted to keep her as an employee, and we said, fine, let's try it. And it's worked fine. We have a 25-year long-term employee who has had some health issues, and she works most of the week from home. She comes in a couple of days in a normal schedule. And then we have a couple of other people that occasionally work remotely from home. So this is not anything unusual for us. In the future, will we have more of it? We'll certainly have the flexibility. I mean, we want to be able to attract young people, and young people like to be able to do it. We want to be able to adapt to what fits the needs of our employees. Most importantly, we need to be able to provide service to our clients, and as long as it doesn't impede service to our clients, we're fine.
Sounds good. So then, now that we're talking about employees as sort of the lifeblood of any business, I truly believe that it's staff that kind of, keep everything afloat. The leaders lead, but the staff keeps everything kind of going. What are you doing as the business owner to keep your staff motivated and excited and comfortable during literally the most unprecedented times in our lives?
Well, the first thing I did was about 10 days ago. I sat down and wrote an email. I won't even call it a letter. It was an email, but in the form of a memo to the employees saying that we're going to get through this, and telling them that their jobs were secured and they were going to get paid. We weren't going to cut staff. We weren't going to do anything that we were. I kiddingly said, this may be the one time that we're all really happy about being in the insurance business, because I feel very, very bad for the folks in hospitality, for the folks in travel, for the folks in so many of the other industries whose clients just aren't there. I mean, you can't do business if the people don't come in to do business with you. And we're being affected. We're certainly affected as our clients are affected. We're affected, and we will be. But it hasn't been an immediate impact on us. So basically just reassuring the employees that, if they needed any help in anything, we were there for them, and that their jobs were safe and secure. And that's gone a long way to putting their, at least the financial fear at rest.
Gotcha. And how often are you doing staff meetings more frequently? Still sticking to, once a week? What are you guys doing?
We haven't had a staff meeting. We
Okay.
should be. I talk to the folks that are in a supervisory capacity. I talk to each of them on a daily basis, and they're in touch with their people. I call all of our people, a couple of times a week just to check in on them. Most of them I'll talk to on a daily or bi-daily basis, because there'd be a client issue or a question or something to do on an account. So I'm in frequent contact with them, but we haven't had a Zoom staff meeting. And I'm not sure that they would respond real well to that, because I have no doubt that some of them are sleeping late and some of them are working late.
So I'll tell you something. So clearly I'm interviewing you, but I'm now going to share a little bit of insight. I think you'll be surprised. I think if you do it, we are social creatures. And as a result, I've actually increased the number of staff meetings I have in my office, because people really miss that interaction, especially the people that are not outward client facing. They miss that interaction because they're only seeing whoever's in their house all day, every day. They're talking to their friends, whatever they're doing, but there's a sense of relief. There's a sense of belonging when you go into the office and you have your chit chats or whatever, and just seeing people. And so I think that there's a lot of value. I think you'd be surprised that even if you do it at a relatively normal time of the day, people will be a lot more receptive. And I think you'll see smiles in people. Just the seeing of everybody, I think, can help. So for whatever, clearly this is an interview about you, but I have personally found that, and having spoken to other clients and business owners, they've started doing similar things. I know one client has actually started going to daily staff conversations because their staff is entirely inward facing. They're the only ones who are kind of meeting, the owners are the only ones who are meeting with the outside world. And so sometimes that's the only outside interaction they have with the world all day, which has done a lot to improve morale. So I think doing it every day is a bit much, but personally, but I think there's value to it. So for whatever that's worth, you may want to implement that a little bit. I think people will appreciate it.
No, I think that's a good suggestion. I hadn't thought about that aspect of it. I think it's a very, very good suggestion, and we will have a staff meeting before the end of the week.
See, there you go. I'm glad I added value. That's exciting.
Thank you.
All right. So let's talk a little bit more about general insurance moving forward. There will be a light at the end of the tunnel. There will be normalcy that we return to. I don't want to talk about the personal lines because I think that's pretty straightforward and not as interesting. From a business perspective, what are things that people can do to protect their business from risk moving forward?
The number one thing is to sit and talk to somebody who is experienced and trained and capable of having a risk discussion. And by that, I simply mean insurance people are for the most part, well-trained about technical aspects of insurance. They understand coverage. They're good filling out applications and getting quotations and doing proposals and handling claims, or at least submitting claims. But insurance people, and we're salespeople. I mean, insurance people are trained to a large degree to be sales folks. Very, very few people in the insurance business are trained in risk management or risk mitigation. And that's a totally different issue. If I'm coming to talk to you about an insurance issue, I'll use the analogy of a quiver and full of arrows. All the arrows in my quiver are insurance policies. So whatever problem you've got, I'm going to pull out an insurance arrow and shoot it at you. The old adage that if your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Right.
And That's the way the insurance business has been done since Lloyd started serving coffee. That's not a conversation on risk. That's not a conversation on risk management. When you're talking about risk, you're asking people, first of all, you have to understand how they do what they do. It's not a question of, well, Jeff, tell me about your business. It's how do you do what you do? Because if I don't understand how you do what you do, can't begin to understand what some of the risks are. So you have to have somebody that is focused much more on risk issues. They have to be creative. They have to have a wide variety of background. My own background, I've got a finance degree from Wharton, and while I don't use that education on a daily basis, the fact that I've got a finance background is tremendously helpful, because a lot of risk management is finance oriented. Insurance, people don't look at insurance as being a financing tool, but that's all it is. Insurance is simply one way of financing risk. There are a lot of other ways of dealing with risk. So you just got to have a risk conversation. And I can have a conversation for half hour, 2 hours with a client or a prospective client, and hardly ever use the word insurance. Most of the time, I don't want to talk about insurance. I want to talk about a lot of different things. I want to talk about safety programs and hiring and training, and what are their fears? What are their concerns? Where's their competition coming from? What would happen in a pandemic situation? That'll be a
that'll be a new one.
Conversation. That'll be a conversation for the future.
Sure. So it's interesting. I think very similar how we work in Flying Chimp, in that we're not asking, businesses come to us and say, hey, we want to do social media, or we need a website. And usually we put brakes on that, going, okay, wait a second. Why? What are your goals? Talk to us what the end product looks like for you, because what you're asking for may not be what it is you want. And search engine optimization might not be the right fit for you. It might be the perfect fit, even though you were thinking about AdWords. SEO is a better fit for you, or you don't really know. And when you work offline, maybe the much better play. It might be radio, it might be bench ads, it might be out of home classical plays. But if you don't know what the end goal is, you can't figure out the right way of getting you there. So I think it's more of a consultative way of helping somebody, as opposed to, like you said, you use the hammer analogy, which we use a lot in my office, is, everything looks like a nail when that's all you've got. So I think it's an interesting way of looking at it. Interesting stuff. Thank you so much. So give us 30 seconds on a 30-second plug. Let's hear your elevator pitch before we sign off.
We are creative. We're innovative. We listen. We want to talk to our clients about risk issues. We want to help them solve problems. We want to help them talk about and reach solutions to the things that are bothering them and are concerns to them and are risk issues in their lives, in their business, whatever they are. And we're very good at helping them come up with solutions to those things that are bothering them or concerns to them or are risks to them. And most of the conversations and most of the solutions have absolutely nothing to do with insurance.
Excellent. Lee, thank you so much for joining me today. You were incredibly insightful and offered a lot of value. So thank you so much. Everybody out there, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be safe, be well, be the community. Remember, pay it forward. I know Lee has actually already reached out to a lot of his clients talking about passing the hat and helping local businesses. Till next time, I'm Jeff with Flying Chimp, and I'll see you again.